The entire story is based on the 7 deadly sins of Christianity: lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. The story begins with a veteran detective named Somerset, who is just 6 days away from retirement. On one of his last days on duty, he is assigned a strange murder case. Soon after, a young and ambitious detective named Mills is transferred to his department and becomes his partner. Their first case takes them to a horrifying crime scene. A very obese man is found dead with his face buried in a plate of food. His hands and feet are tied, and food is still inside his mouth. The detectives are confused by what they see. When the autopsy report arrives, it reveals something even more disturbing. The victim had been force-fed continuously for many hours. His throat had swollen, and finally, his stomach burst inside, causing his death. The killer had also left behind supermarket bills, proving that he personally bought the food used to torture the man. Somerset's boss wants to ignore the deeper meaning behind the crime. He believes someone simply hated the fat man and killed him, but Somerset disagrees. Even though he is about to retire, he insists on taking charge of the case because he feels Mills is too inexperienced to handle something this complex. Mills, however, is eager and wants to work on it too. Before they can solve the first murder, another killing happens. This time the victim is a powerful and wealthy lawyer named Ollie Gold. At the crime scene, the word greed is written in blood. 1 pound of flesh has been cut from a man's body, and strange circular marks are drawn over the eyes in a large photograph of his wife that hangs on the wall. Nothing makes sense yet. Somerset's boss now realizes something serious is happening and allows him to lead the investigation. He also gives Somerset a strange object found inside the fat man's stomach, a small piece of wood. Somerset returns to the first crime scene. He discovers that thin wooden splinters were torn from the floor when the killer repeatedly dragged the refrigerator back and forth. Behind the fridge, Somerset finds 2 pieces of paper. On one paper it says, "Long and difficult is the way that leads to goodness." Somerset recognizes it as a line from a book, and he knows this is only the beginning. On the second paper, one word is written: gluttony. In the second murder, the word greed was written. Somerset finally connects the dots. He tells Mills, his boss, that the killer is committing murders based on the 7 deadly sins. That means 5 more murders are still coming. These sins are gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy. Shaken by this realization, Somerset tries to walk away from case. But even after leaving the office, he secretly goes to the library and begins studying the 7 deadly sins. At the same time, Mills is also researching the same subject. Later, Mills' wife invites Somerset to their home for dinner. After the meal, Somerset and Mills discuss the second murder. Mills shows him photographs from the crime scene, especially the one with the strange circles drawn over the wife's eyes in the painting. Somerset says that maybe the killer wanted them to notice something specific in that picture, but there are no fingerprints, no witnesses, and no direct connection between the 2 murders yet. They visit the lawyer's wife and study the photos again. This time she notices something shocking. The large painting on the wall was hanging upside down. They return to the crime scene, remove the painting, and tear apart, but nothing is inside it. Then they inspect the wall behind it and find a hidden message written in blood: "Help me." There are also fingerprints, which belong to a known criminal involved in drugs, theft, and rape. Using his address, the police rush to his apartment. Inside, they find a horrifying sight. The man they believe was a killer is tied to his bed, completely emaciated, with deep wounds all over his body. He looks more like a corpse than a living human, but he is still alive. His name is Victor. Doctors later reveal that he has been drugged heavily for a year, injected with antibiotics and chemicals to keep him barely alive. His tongue was cut off long ago, and the trauma he suffered is so extreme that if he is questioned, he could die from shock. They now have a living witness, but one who cannot speak. Somerset realizes the truth. This man was a victim of the sin of sloth. A man suddenly appears in the corridor, holding something in his hands. The moment he sees Somerset and Mills, he steps forward, pulls out a gun, and fires at them. Both detectives survive, but the man escapes. Now they are sure this is the killer they have been hunting. Mills chases him through the building. When he finally corners him, the man suddenly attacks. Mills' gun is knocked out of his hand. The killer puts a gun to Mills' head, but does not shoot. Instead, he walks away. Somerset arrives moments later. They rush to the man's apartment and call in their team. Inside, they discover chilling evidence: a receipt from a leather shop, a photograph of a woman, and even a photo of Mills himself, secretly taken by the killer. Mills suddenly remembers, during one of the crime scenes, a photographer had taken his picture. That man was the killer. Using Mills' memory, they create a sketch. Now they finally know his face. Soon, the phone rings. It is John Doe. He calmly says, "I congratulate you for finding my home. Forgive me for hurting one of you. That was never my intention. But now I must change all my plans." Then he hangs up. Following the leather shop receipt, they track down the woman in the photograph. When they reach her location, they find her brutally murdered. Written in her blood on the wall is the word lust. She was a prostitute, killed as part of the deadly sin. sins. John Doe did not kill her with his own hands. Instead, he forced another man at gunpoint to do it. Despite knowing who the killer is, they still cannot stop him. The next day, John Doe calls the police again. He tells them he has done it once more. They rush to the scene and find a beautiful model, her face completely destroyed. In one hand, she holds pills, in the other a phone. John Doe had given her a choice, either call for help or kill herself. Unable to bear the torture, she took the pills. Written on the wall in blood, pride. Now 5 sins have been completed. Gluttony, greed, sloth, lust, and pride. Back at the police station, something shocking happens. John Doe walks in himself. His clothes and hands are covered in blood. He calmly surrenders. He demands to speak to his lawyer. When the lawyer arrives, he tells Somerset and Mills that John has already committed the final 2 murders, envy and wrath, but he will only reveal the bodies if both detectives go with him. Otherwise, he will claim insanity and walk free. They have no choice. The 3 men get into a car and drive to a remote, deserted area. A police helicopter follows him from a distance, so John cannot see it. John Doe remains calm, almost peaceful. He says every person he killed deserved their punishment. Suddenly, a delivery van appears in the distance. Mills holds John at gunpoint as Somerset approaches the van. A courier steps out and places a box on the ground. When Somerset opens a box, he freezes. John Doe smiles and says to Mills, "I was jealous of your perfect life. I was envious. That is why I killed your wife. Her head is in that box." He adds something even more horrifying. She was pregnant. She begged for a child. Mills asks Somerset if it is true. Somerset cannot answer. His silence is enough. John continues, "My sin was envy. Now your sin must be wrath. Take your revenge." Somerset desperately begs Mills not to do it. He tells him that this is exactly what John wants. If he pulls the trigger, John will win. But Mills cannot control his rage. He shoots John Doe, and with that, the final sin is completed. John Doe has succeeded. The 7 deadly sins are finished. In the end, Mills is taken away. Somerset's superior asks him where he will go now that his retirement has arrived. Somerset replies, "I will stay." Then he quotes a writer, "The world is a beautiful place and worth fighting for." And he says quietly, "I agree with the second part."